We are now ready to begin. So the next item on our agenda is item number 4. And if you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Our next item is approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Sean?
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 5, superintendent's presentation.
Yes. All right. Well, you know, this is a month that, and I understand all of you really do not want or desire to have any appreciation, but you have to just enjoy this moment because you deserve this moment. So during this month, it's a time for us to hit pause and to recognize leaders in our district that are at the board level. And this is something that happens across the state of Ohio, but because we're here this evening, I thought it would be a time to just hear a little bit from some other constituents as well about their appreciation. So we're going to give some people a chance to have a voice. One of the things I want to thank you for, just in terms of your leadership in general, and a lot of people, if they're watching tonight, I hope they understand, board members do a lot of work behind the scenes. And so some people don't all understand all those components of it. You have your own jobs, your own lives, your own rhythm, yet you're always engaged in working with us, whether it's long phone calls with myself working through very complex situations, or it's working on committees. We have 10 committees that are board committees that you're all a part of, that you serve on, and then you share that information with not only here at the meeting, but with others in our public. And you also serve in so many different ways, and so it's something we appreciate deeply. And this is one of those years of being a board member is already a difficult thing, and usually you probably don't get a lot of thank you notes. Not that you're looking for thank you notes, but I also understand it's one of those jobs where you hear a lot. And this is one of those years where the leadership that you have provided for our district has created a sense of stability, a sense of community, a sense of belonging for our constituents, for our staff, for our students. Just having the courage and just the wisdom to say we are going to be in a position to stay open this year. So leadership this year is the hardest year it's ever been to be a leader, and you know that and you've experienced that. It's the hardest time in our history. And the way that you've handled your business professionally together as a team, but also with us, allowing us to do our jobs and to have confidence, to give us the confidence and the encouragement to do that well. We cannot thank you enough. And so as you hear some different voices tonight, we wanted to highlight some specific areas that really show your leadership and how it connects directly to people that we serve each and every day. So I want to read to you again, each learner feels emotionally and physically safe, supported, and empowered to pursue worthy challenges. That's something that we have been living this year, and we've been really working in every aspect of our district to accomplish this, and we'll never accomplish everything perfectly, and we know that, but it is something we desire, and your leadership really has given us the space to do that well. So I just want to thank you, and I want to introduce our first speaker tonight. So Kristin, would you come on up and talk a little bit about safety?
Hello. My name is Kristin Lazuda, and I have the privilege of teaching a class of remarkable third graders at Mason Elementary. I'm here today to share my admiration and appreciation for our exemplary school board and its impact on our students and staff. Nelson Mandela said, "It is better to lead from behind and put others in front of you, especially when you celebrate victory when nice things occur. But you take the front line when there is danger, and people will appreciate your leadership." Our Mason City Schools School Board has championed and celebrated the bold moves and victories that we've experienced in our schools for years, while making brave decisions and setting conditions for success behind the scenes in one of Ohio's largest districts. Our board has set a precedent of compassionate, responsive, smart leadership that cultivates a culture of safety and empowerment for our staff and our students. This steadfast commitment to our community never wavered when the COVID-19 pandemic arrived, turning our existing model of education upside down. In this moment, you chose to take the front line, and you've stayed at that front line to ensure that each and every learner in Mason feels safe, supported, and empowered, despite any challenges that arise. From the moment that teaching in a pandemic entered our vernacular, we knew that we would need to pivot from our normal to create an equitable, impactful educational experience for our students. From the onset of this challenge, our school board has made swift, bold decisions to allow the staff of Mason City Schools to reach our students while providing all learners of Mason with access and connections to education in ways that have made Mason a district to emulate in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis. When students were mandated to stay home in the spring, you approved the mobilization and distribution of devices to every learner who did not currently have one, ensuring all students could access learning material, but more importantly, their teachers and their peers. Teaching both synchronously and asynchronously through programs such as Screencastify and Zoom, our staff was almost instantly provided with the tools we needed to keep our students engaged. During this time, students and staff were kept physically safe, but emotional well-being was also highlighted through the incredible mental wellness teams that Mason City Schools employs. Resources and personnel were always at the ready to ensure that all students and staff had a place to turn in times of struggle. Additionally, you ensured that no staffing cuts occurred during this time, allowing our teachers and paraprofessionals to maintain the personalized attention that is the hallmark of our district. Meals were mobilized for families, and Mason's support staff provided real-time assistance for families' technological and personal needs in a collaborative effort that was truly remarkable. While the remote learning model was anything but normal for our students, Mason City Schools did all it could to ensure that students had a positive experience. One shining example of this mission was the personal, memorable high school graduation experience that was provided for each and every Mason senior in 2020. Mason moments like these were made possible through compassionate, decisive action from our school board, which created stability and positive outcomes during a time of unprecedented challenge. When our district faced difficult decisions on how to proceed with the return to school this fall, physical and emotional safety continued to be top of mind for our board. After listening to the community, analyzing data, and considering an equitable and optimal experience for all Mason learners, you made the bold decision to offer our families a choice. Students could return to school in person or learn remotely from their homes. Both options included being part of a class community with Mason quality teachers facilitating Mason quality learning experiences. This initiative ensured that every Mason City Schools family could make a best fit decision for their child without compromising a pathway to success. The logistical challenge of rapidly developing both online and in-person school models required immediate creative decisions from you, from creating new positions for online staff, such as online content designers, to decreasing class size for students attending in person to allow for proper social distancing guidelines. An influx of safety measures were readily put in place by you, and hundreds of additional hand sanitizer dispensers, cleaning materials, and plexiglass dividers appeared as we nervously prepared to face the challenge of welcoming learners back to school in the absence of hugs, high fives, and visible smiles. What we've learned, though, is that an air hug or an air high five still makes us feel loved and proud. We can smile with our eyes, and the very opportunity to be together, whether in person or online, means everything. We've also learned which masks stay up all day, how to create invisible superhero bubbles around ourselves to stay safe, how many pumps of hand sanitizer we really need, it's just one, and how to exercise our E+R=O knowledge each and every day. growing our grit and our resilience as we continue to face each new challenge together. We are grateful to you for the chance to be together this year in Mason. Through it all, you've extended grace, flexibility, and above all, trust to our staff. You've trusted our incredible administrators to make decisions, from furniture placement to bathroom logistics to installing a Ring doorbell near the newly placed nurse's office for students to be easily and safely picked up by their families. From determining quarantining procedures, purchasing webcams, and setting protocols for building visitors, to organizing material pickup, support, and connection opportunities for online students, our incomparable administrators and staff members have truly gone above and beyond to ensure the safety of our students each and every day. Physical safety and emotional safety. Our school board has championed countless measures in this effort to include impactful, inclusive excellence initiatives. While this has been an area of focus for years in our district, this year our board approved the addition of a diversity, equity, and inclusion learning experience designer to help facilitate authentic, meaningful experiences for our students and staff to ensure that all students feel valued and empowered in every facet of their learning. Our school inclusive excellence teams have worked extensively with staff in our mission to inspire children to step up and make a difference each and every day. You've also advocated for the continued presence of our excellent mental wellness team, which provides proactive care for our students, as well as an incredible crisis team, which stands at the ready for our students and staff. We have recently felt the authentic, extensive love and support of these teams as our Comet family has experienced heartbreaking loss. It's times like these that our gratitude deepens for the opportunity to be together, taking care of one another and focusing on what matters most. Thank you, Mr. Galvin, Mrs. Yingling, Mrs. Batchy, Mr. Steele, and Mr. Wise, for providing me, my colleagues, my students, and their families with the opportunities, resources, and bold initiatives to ensure that all of our students thrive, no matter the challenges we may face. We appreciate your leadership and your willingness to be on the front lines with us as we work tirelessly each day so that each Comet feels safe, supported, and above all, empowered to rise in the face of adversity. Whew, got a little winded there. Wow. You'd think I'd be a pro at this by now. And since I'm a third grade teacher, I brought you some thank you cards from third graders. I'm going to just set these right here. These have been quarantined.
They're good.
Thank you.
3 days.
How appropriate. The coffee bean book is up here. I read this to my Girl Scouts and my children. My name is Casey Moran. So I didn't know it was January was School Board Appreciation Month. I thought it was Girl Scout Month because it's cookie time. So the girls might be outside later, just a heads up. But when I was asked to speak to you, I really thought about what you've done over the past couple of years. And what I think about from a leadership perspective are the 4 E's. Some of you should know this. Envisionment, envision, enablement, energize, and edge. And I want to talk you through examples of what I've seen from your leadership of each of those. Envision, you set the goal of continuing the high standard of Mason education despite the pandemic. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You listened. And that's hard because you got a lot of really constructive feedback and a lot of feedback over the past several months. You aligned when people had concerns, you listened, and I really do appreciate that. I also really appreciate that you preserved Mason quality, which included the need for a levy, which was affirmed by our community by over 70%, which is outstanding. Let's talk about enablement. I cannot imagine the logistics that you guys had in each of your meetings. It was significant, from the safety of students, to the staff, to the teachers, to classroom layouts, cleaning, and more. And you gave families a choice, not once, but twice, in terms of how to best manage their child's experience. You reached out to us, which I am so blessed for. I feel so valued. The Girl Scouts now provide meals, every week to families that are remote, who just need a little extra support. We have a great partnership with Tamara Earl, and without your foresight, that would not be possible. Let's talk about Energize. You're going to hear a little bit later from a high school senior who didn't know if she was going to have a senior season. And that was hard. And through your leadership, not only did we have a season, many teams advanced, and our band got to go to Indianapolis to compete. Pretty impressive. And then Edge. I talk about it as moxie. And you guys have definitely demonstrated some moxie. Through data, you pushed through bureaucracy, followed up, made phone call after phone call, email after email, and were rewarded for your tireless efforts from the legislation in Ohio. We are now better protecting and preserving the mental wellness of our students, staff, teachers, and families. I truly want to thank you for your leadership and your demonstration of the 4 E's to protect and preserve Mason quality. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jashika Jayaprakash, and I am a 3rd grader who's doing online learning. First of all, I'd like to thank all of the board members, staff, principals, teachers, janitors, and all of the other wonderful people out there. I like how you gave us a choice to do online learning or in-person learning. I also love using Zoom and online Google Slide presentations as our learning plans. It helps me learn a lot. Even though I'm not playing on the playgrounds, hugging my friends, or sitting crisscross applesauce on the carpets, I still feel like I'm doing it all from home. I would also like to give my teacher, Mr. Williams, a big and special thank you for all of his effort. He's very hilarious and he's hardworking. I am also feeling very emotionally and physically safe due to the support given by my family and the staff. I have a charity called Jewels for Joy, where I make and sell jewelry such as earrings and bracelets. With all the money I get, I buy toys for the Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and I support my community. Due to the pandemic, I have been gifting some of my jewels to the nurses and doctors because as a token of appreciation, because they are risking their lives to save our lives. I also am a member of the Brave Ambassador team. In the Brave Ambassador team, you get to tell people your opinions and you get to get your voice heard. To wrap this up, I'm going to say 2 things. Number 1 is that the people in ME are magnificent and put effort into everything. And number 2 is that kindness starts with ME, me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jashika.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Zach Langmeier, and I am an in-person student learner this year. I'm a current senior this year, and I'm planning on majoring in music education next year at most likely The Ohio State University. I would just like to give the board and all of the faculty and staff members in Mason City School District my sincere thank you for allowing students like myself to come back in person this fall and year-round and still feel a sense of normalcy. You know, being pushed online in spring was hard for students like myself. I'm a very hands-on, tactile learner, and also music is a huge part. So not being able to be in class, play instruments with friends, stay after school, learn new musical things, you know, with my teachers and whatnot, took a huge toll on me, which also brings me to the mental health side of things. You guys have really pushed in the last 5-10 years for the mental health thing, and with someone who's diagnosed as anxiety, been through depression, it is a sincere, you know, just thank you for everything you guys do. And being in person isn't always what, it's not quite as normal as a normal senior year. But with band, you guys really helped us adapt and overcome new challenges. And being able to go to Lucas Oil this year was an incredible experience that could not have been done without the hard work behind the scenes of all the staff, especially you guys and all the staff at Mason City Schools. And I'd just like to say thank you again for everything you guys do, and thank you.
I recognize this picture. I don't know if you've seen this. The heads behind our heads. Well, you've heard themes tonight. Hopefully that was a good reminder of why you do what you do. It's not easy to sit in that seat, and none of us, I've not experienced that, and I know it's hard. But we appreciate you. We appreciate the work that you do and that you allow to happen in our district. And you heard everything from financial stability to emotional stability to choice to Mason moments to E plus R equals O. And you've heard it from students, staff, and parents. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all that you do. And hopefully you feel just a sense of appreciation, because we do appreciate you. Now I'll ask some of the students maybe to help. We do have a gift for you. So if you'd come out here to get a picture, and then we have a gift for you to stand up.
And maybe all of our speakers could.
All of our speakers can come up here to get a picture. And we also have a little coffee bean book for you. And there's a coffee,
Alexandra, if you want to join too.
there's a
'Cause
coffee
I've got
card
that, yeah.
inside as well. So come on up if you want to go.
Zach was my third grader. So.
Oh, really? There you go. That's such a great connection. Come on over. We have the books right here. If you want to hand it, grab a book and hand it to one of our board members, that'd be great. Like I said, there is a local coffee shop certificate inside for you.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. You remembered all of that.
Yeah, I know.
Without any notes or anything.
Thank you so much.
You guys can
And then if you guys want to stand with them, I'd love to. Oh my gosh.
Take her home. Come on. I was worried you were going to do a quiz on the 4E's.
4E's, but you should know that.
I know.
That's terrific. That looks wonderful. All right. 1, 2, 3.
I'm smiling really.
You can only see the smile underneath the mask.
That's right.
Do one of these.
I do look like that quite frequently.
Thanks for telling us about it.
Smiling with your eyes.
I like your mask too.
If I catch Ainsley before she's asleep when I get home, that'll definitely make her day.
Never a dull moment. Good job.
Thank you all for
Thank you.
Well, again, on behalf of the board, I know I speak for everybody when I say thank you, Jonathan, thank you, Ms. Lazuda, Ms. Moran, Zach, and Jashika. Those words really are, we appreciate them so much. And as Mr. Cooper said, it reminds us of the why. And, we are very fortunate and blessed, all 5 of us, to be able to sit in these seats and do what we can for this district. It's a special place to all of us.
I always say that the only way school board members get a thank you is to mandate the second meeting of January every month to be school board appreciation. So it often slips by my view, and Jonathan's right, this is not something that it sneaks up on us, and so when Zach walked up, I kind of felt like we all should stand up quick and hold up our instruments, because I think that if he had his white gloves on, that would be appropriate. And Jashika, I mean, I thought you were reading up here.
Me too. I was looking for a teleprompter.
That was very impressive, and thank you. And Casey, I told her I thought she was going to quiz us on the 4E's. I'm really supposed to know.
Pulling my mask up to hide my eyes at that.
And I think we might have the greatest orator that I know of in Mason, and Kristin. I mean, wow,
Yes.
that
Yes.
was really impressive. And thank you for those kind words. You really captured a lot of things. It was like, wow, that happened this year too. I forgot all those things. So Thanks all of you for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. It meant a lot. This is my first year, so talk about getting your feet wet fast. It was interesting, but just to be surrounded with these people who dedicate so much to the schools, and you're here because you want to do it. It's not for any other reason. You want to make things better, so the appreciation means more than you know.
I agree. I'll just add my thanks to the mix. And just remember one thing, that when you sit in this seat, your true inspiration comes from people like you for being here tonight and actually saying thank you. And it means a lot. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah, and I give Jonathan credit for this maybe being the design of why you did it the way you did it, but this is so uncomfortable for us every time because we're not in it for the thanks. We're here to stand behind you all and to provide you the resources and the framework to do what you do so well. But it was such a good reminder that I thank you all for doing this. I'm glad you did it, even though it's uncomfortable to hear thank yous to us, because it was actually a really good demonstration of why we do what we do and why we do care. Because I mean, from Jashika, I mean, you that was incredible in third grade. If nobody had told us your grade, or if we heard you, nobody would have guessed that you were. And I'm not against, not saying anything about third graders. Kristin Lazuda will say I have a fourth grader and 2 second graders, so I'll get in trouble. But you knocked it out of the park, and we know that we have students who are capable of speaking for themselves and speaking truth and recognizing their own experience, and that was just incredible. Zach, thank you so much for sharing your perspective as somebody who is on your way out, and hearing that it was worth it to step out and do the things that we've done as a district this year to make sure that you have the experience. And Casey, somebody who serves so much, so many different aspects of our district and helped us get that levy passed and to help us tell our story. To thank you for sharing your perspective as a business leader, but also as somebody who sits in that spot and leads students who are doing amazing things with Comic Cupboard and so on and so forth. And Mrs. Lazuda, I mean, I told Kristin, so Kristin had my daughter last year, and I told her I couldn't look at her because as she spoke, I just kept envisioning, and I might tear up because it still gets me. Kristin sitting in my garage last year at the end of the school year, when teachers would go around and drive to their students' houses for a goodbye and a way to have an emotional wrap up of the year. And it was raining, and so we came into the garage and socially distanced with our lawn chairs. And that will always be just a perfect example of what Kristin does for our students and our families, and all of our staff do for our families. And I think those are all really fantastic examples and just really good illustrations of exactly why we do what we do. And so thank you for sharing that with us and your time. Thank you so much.
Well, once again, thank you, everybody. With that, we have our next agenda item, and it is item number 6, hearing of the public. We do have one speaker tonight, so I will reiterate our normal hearing of the public ground rules. Community participation at a board meeting is limited to the hearing of the public portion of the meeting. The board will not deliberate or decide any issue during the hearing of the public section. Each person is allotted 3 minutes until the total time of 30 minutes is used, and no disclosure of students' or employees' private information during this portion of our meeting. So with that, Amelia Moran, make sure you don't break any of those rules, please.
So I am aware that everybody just said thank you, but I kind of want to reiterate that, especially as a student athlete. So good evening, my name is Amelia Moran, and I'd like to start by saying thank you for all that you do day by day. Sometimes what you do does not get seen by students, teachers, and parents. Your work towards further educating young minds does not go unnoticed, so thank you. As a student athlete, I want to express how grateful I am that the board members work to ensure student athletes have a shot at playing this season. As a rising senior, I was concerned about not getting the chance to play this season. Throughout the summer, day by day, the stress kept piling up. Then when school started, a new fear emerged. An administrator walk into your class, excuse themselves for interrupting before asking you to step outside. They would tell you that unfortunately you sat next to the wrong kid and had to quarantine. As an athlete, that meant missing practices and games. Going to school day by day was already a challenge. I looked forward to the remote learning days because they were not only a time to catch up. By the way, I'm really sad that you guys are eliminating those. That was a great thing for like going to colleges and stuff since we missed that for 9 months, but kind of sad, but it's okay. It's cool. But it was definitely a time where like we got to de-stress and that we were also like a safe day for us. And we didn't have like the fear of getting pulled out of class. So with the introduction of the self-quarantine, we were at least ensured that we would not get quarantined by the school for just being in class, sitting by someone who had COVID. This was a big stress reliever that most students, athletes took advantage of. And that's only due to your work towards all of this and your collaboration, so thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Moran. And we don't normally comment after public hearing portions of our meeting, but I'll just say we appreciate that, for our student athletes and all of our students involved in band and extracurriculars, that as far as we've been able to observe, you've all made the absolute most of the seasons and the opportunities that you've had, and we thank you for making the most of those. So we appreciate it. All right, we usually take a pause at this portion of our meeting to let you all get on with your evening if you would like. Of course, you're welcome to stay for the duration of the meeting. It's not nearly as exciting for the most part, but in any event, we appreciate you all being here. Thanks for coming, and we'll take a brief break.
Just for the record, everyone always leaves, so
Yeah, you will not be affected.
I don't feel like there'll be any sort of.
You'd feel bad if you stayed.
Just to be clear.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Yeah, I guess we actually do 2 pauses usually, but I had some feeling that we could get the public hearing portion in without a break before we
Good call.
dismissed everybody.
That's
so.
why you're in the
Kinda
center chair.
undershell, though. Like, if you would want to leave.
Right, that's right. See the magic happen. All right, well, after the hearing of the public, the next item on our agenda is item number 7, non-district funded positions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 8, certified personnel superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 9, certified adjustments of salary superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just want to congratulate those teachers and staff that continue their learning. We are a learning organization, so this just recognizes that on item 9. So congratulations.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Sean?
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 10, supplemental personnel superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
The only thing I'll mention on here is you'll see that there are new appointments, and some of those new appointments, the way supplementals work is there is a fund for supplementals, and if we don't fill a certain supplemental, we'll reallocate that money for something else that is a need in our district. So for example, on our last board agenda, a couple weeks ago, we had an esports coordinator. I believe that was something we talked about, or esports being approved. And so you can see here, that's a new thing, so it's now a new allocation in that same fund. So it's not adding more to the fund, it's just using the money differently for the needs that actually serve the students and the needs they have. So just want to explain what happens here on the agenda and why you have deletions and additions.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Welcome.
Sean?
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 11, resolution for hiring non-certified supplemental personnel superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
You know, it's after hearing young Miss Moran talk about sports and how the hard work that they do and to keep each other safe, and just a thank you to you. You see that we have spring sports coming on here, which is always encouraging. I just remember the moment back when we were just trying to figure out, are we going to have a football season? I mean, I remember sitting right here and we didn't know, and now we've seen it all the way through the whole year. And coming into our third and final season of the year, which is pretty exciting to see all that. And then I have to point out, he won't want us to point this out, but Mike Reed is on the agenda this evening. Mike, he would never tell you this and he would never say anything, but this is his second recognition as the Coach of the Year for the state of Ohio for girls tennis. Now, he could be Coach of the Year probably every year for girls and guys tennis, because the girls have now won 4 state championships, I think, in a row, and the guys have won, I think, maybe 3. I might have my numbers off on that if you remember, but it's something.
Like Tom Brady, you can't really remember all of them.
There's not enough fingers for rings, for the guy. So, anyways, if there is as Tom Brady gets referred to as the GOAT, if there's a GOAT out there for tennis coaching, he's in that realm probably.
Hopefully we don't lose him to Tampa, so.
We could lose him to Tampa. This weather right now.
Thanks, Jonathan. Sean?
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 12, classified personnel, superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
5-0.
And I will note, welcome to Ms. Heather Smith, our new COVID specialist here.
Thanks for pointing that out, yeah.
Item number 13, certified personnel, additional duties. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just want to point out, thank Katie Haywood for her hard work. You know Mason City Schools is known for loving the performing arts, and so she supports, obviously, the chorus and choir and all the things that they do. This is a stipend for the above and beyond after hours work that she does with them, and it's amazing what she does with our students. So just wanted to point out what that is, and also just thank her for her work on that.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Welcome.
Sean?
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 14, contracted personnel, independent contract. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mike is someone who we have had as a contractor for quite a while now. He does odds and ends throughout the entire district. The reason this is on here tonight, we typically approve at the beginning of the year a certain amount for Mike, and that's how this usually works. Well, this year, we added to Mike's plate a little bit more than he had anticipated. So all of these, you see these units that you have between you, he cut, I want to say, it feels like thousands of those at the beginning of the year so that we could have our kids in person. So every cafeteria table has those dividers on them. Every entranceway for all of our frontline staff have those, and Mike cut all those. So we had to add to his contract because that was not anywhere on our radar originally. So just so you understand what this investment is.
5,000 lineal feet.
Wow.
What is it?
5,000 lineal feet.
Millennial feet of plexiglass.
How many blades did he go through?
Lunch. Saved a fortune using him too. Those would have cost 10 times what we paid for them.
Man.
And we were looking everywhere for them. It was like gold at the moment. Yeah, I remember that day as well.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Welcome.
Sean?
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 15, action item, superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to go through the 2 items we have on here. The first is just the new course proposal. That's gone through its first and second reading, and it goes through the Student Achievement Committee. Any course that's proposed comes through Student Achievement. Student Achievement is the committee that's dedicated to reviewing that process. They ask questions, or they are allowed to dialogue with those that are bringing the courses forward. Amy does a great job of facilitating that, and then it comes to the board for a couple readings, and then we have dialogue with people outside to ask questions and to understand that process. So this is a course that's coming through on that second reading. The second item on here is we have a great relationship with Royalty Trucking Company, who leases our house property that's right off of behind the middle school. And so they've been a great tenant. Todd works with them on a regular basis. We're glad they're staying. This just indicates that we do raise that in alignment with the market. So if the market's going up in terms of the values of rentals, we keep it in that same market. So that's something we've worked with them on, and this is just going through as a agreement lease, so you can see that, or a lease agreement. Does that sound like anything? Great.
Thank you, Jonathan. Sean?
Mrs. Yingling?
Yes.
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 16, Treasurer's Report. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
Couple things to point out tonight. One, in the donation section, you'll notice there's a donation from Hello World related to the Clorox sweepstakes, the amount of $20,000. Interesting story there. We have a high school student by the name of Mia Carlson. Her aunt actually was a winner in this sweepstakes, and we, when you get an email or a phone call saying you're a sweepstakes winner, you always ask all the obvious questions of is this legit or not. But after going through that process, we figured out it was legit. And so her aunt chose Mason High School because her niece was a student here. So the money has come through, and the high school has plans to utilize those funds to do some redesign and some furniture upgrades here in the media center at the high school. So grateful to Mia Carlson, her aunt, and the Clorox sweepstakes for helping us out here at the high school. The other thing I'll point out, not on the agenda, but just generally financial related, in case anybody out there has heard or read in the news, a couple updates. One is that the governor last Friday did announce some reductions in our budget losses. So it's not very often we're grateful for budget reductions, but one point of clarification, we were initially slated to receive a $2.1 million loss this year from our funding from the state. That's actually down to $963,000, so only a loss of just shy of $1 million this year. So it's still not great, but $1 million loss is better than a $2 million loss. The other thing is that everybody's probably familiar with the second round of CARES Act funding that was passed at the very end of December. We've kind of been awaiting guidance and dollar estimates on what the district might receive for that. And it looks like we're going to receive over $700,000 in the second round of CARES Act funding. Again, not something that's, anything we receive is not offsetting the additional revenue losses or expenses that we're incurring, but we're always grateful to receive anything that helps us offset some of those things and allows us to have the plexiglass and have the cleaning supplies and make sure that we have a safe environment for our students and families and staff. So just a couple updates, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Sean. Any other discussion?
Can't help it, it is School Board Appreciation Month, so give me 1 minute here, but you'll ironically find that the ultimate cut that we got from the state is about the same as the CARES Act money. And that's called, in my experience, supplanting. In that the state of Ohio is doing just fine, and they caught themselves a little bit short, in my opinion, by announcing some very, very large cuts during the early part of the pandemic. And now they're having to walk those back a little bit. But when they walk that back, they look around and say, well, they're getting this money from the feds, so it's no difference, for the school. The school will be happy now because they'll get that money from the Fed, and they'll have the loss from us, so they're good. The reality of that is that another $900,000 of Mason City School District taxpayer money went to Columbus and never came back.
Yep.
And this happens all the time, and it's it's very common that a board like us would say, we're very appreciative for this and this and this, and we are, honestly. We're very blessed in Mason, and this isn't time to gripe about it, but it's a good opportunity to point that out. And if you ask a legislator, they won't even know what you're talking about, or they'll deny it and say it's not true. If you ask the governor, he'll say absolutely it's not true. If you ask the state finance director, he'll say, who told you about that? So it's a frustrating thing, but it's important to bring up, because even though we got some money from the feds, they printed off some money and they sent it to us, but they took real hard-earned money from our local community and sent it to Columbus, and it never came back.
And the money from the feds was meant to offset extra expenses that we hadn't planned on pre-COVID,
Anyway.
whereas the state funding
Right.
is to educate students as we were educating them before COVID.
Yeah.
So it's a double sort of, from that front, sort of a double shell game.
That's right.
The timing was absolutely very curious. The announcement came out on Friday, which was about 3 weeks after the second round of CARES Act funding. So it was
Not that curious. That
yeah,
was my
right,
whole
exactly.
point. Yeah,
It's not, yeah.
When
you
I
could-
saw your memo, I was like, oh, yeah. So anyway, not to throw a downer on school board appreciation.
Hey,
We only have a couple more days of it.
if there was ever a meeting to say your piece,
That's
this is
right.
the one.
But to end on a high note, though, not giving anybody credit for it, just so our district does know, we are $1.1 million better positioned for this year financially than we thought we were going to be 2 weeks ago. And so that's something to celebrate, whether whoever gets credit or not for it. That's a good thing for all of us.
And just to take a step back and look at the big picture again, as Kevin mentioned, we've looked at this over the last several months, multiple times, but as we've tallied our total losses, I mean, we're in excess of $6 million for the year. So even though we're getting back, some of that funding, it's still not, coming close to covering, the losses that we've had. And that $6 million will only continue to grow as the economic impact builds. And so definitely not something that's completely offsetting where we've been.
Tried to end on a positive note.
Well, thanks, Sean.
Sorry.
Don't take Sean on in that
No.
game. You can always win.
Class. Call it like you see it.
Sean, you want to go ahead and call the roll?
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Ms. Abachi?
Yes.
Mr. Gavin?
Yes.
Ms. Yingling?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 17, committee reports. Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Council, January 19th.
Yeah, it was less a meeting of the DEI Council, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council, than our first, community event as the newly minted approach to superintendent level committee, like our other committees. And I mean, as a member of that council and as a board's representative on it, I have to say it was a smashing success. I mean, we've had close to 85, 90 participants. And it was a really fantastic, it was a really great conversation. It's challenging to do a book study on Zoom with that many people. But man, our students and the DEI team at the high school helped lead discussions with community members and staff and administrators about the book. This book is Anti-Racist, which was a really good text, and I encourage you all to read it. That is a really good introduction. Saying it's an introduction probably sells it short, because it is complete and thorough, but it's accessible and really asks us to ask critical questions about race in America and what our role is in it and in this time. And so it was just a really great conversation, a great event that happened to take place. I mean, there was planning, but there was a bit of serendipity to have the opportunity to do it on the National Day of Racial Healing. And so it was really a good moment. And what I tried to stress for the team, the group that I led the discussion for, was that, it's tough to do a book study, but it really was meant to be a starter conversation to kind of frame some of the work that this council will do and that we'll do with our community, and conversations that we'll have and work that we'll do going forward. So especially on that note, it was a really great success. And I give a lot of credit to Tracy and the team for getting this set up and making it happen, and for our leaders. Dr. Letitia Bates was our facilitator, sort of the MC for the night, and she did a fantastic job framing the discussion and setting us up for success. So I want to thank everybody for their time and effort on that.
Thanks, Matt.
Tracy, was there anything else you wanted to say about the event?
That was
Okay.
perfect.
Great.
The students, and I would also just credit our student leaders, and they've been working a lot with Soroya Smith, our new DEI-LED, as well as Dr. Robert Jordan at the high school, who takes a big role with, serving in that role. And so, Matt, I would just totally echo you. We're so fortunate to have the opportunity to hear from our community and to have them co-construct and lead these kinds of efforts because this work is part of our inclusive excellence work. When we think of our justice principle, it is to be anti-bias and anti-racist, and this was an opportunity to have that conversation. So I love what you just said. It's the start. It's the start of a conversation. It doesn't mean that it ends there, and we know that there's always work to be done.
Thanks, Tracy. Student Achievement Committee had a January 19th meeting.
You can go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I made Desiree do this last time we met, but Amy, I love the fact that you usually start your meetings with something that gets everyone in the mood, everyone on the same page. And this time it was, what's the one word that want to guide you in 2021? And I think that's a great idea. And they had some great words that I personally would not have come up with. Just goes to show you the amount of people resources that we have and ideas that we have in our staff. I think the rest of the meeting, you guys can jump in if I miss something. Again, we're focused on our new environment, our COVID environment, students learning in the classroom, but also a lot of students required, at least for a period of time, to do online learning. So I'm so happy to see that we're gathering data and we're utilizing the data within the district for our staff to learn, because we're all learning how to do this. It wasn't largely done in the K through 12 grades anywhere. But I'm very happy to find that teachers are really embracing this, and they're really putting some thought behind it. How can we be more effective? And the one piece of that is so critical for me is not only are we gathering data from our families, our parents, but we're also gathering data from our students on an ongoing basis. And it's remarkable. It's remarkable what they come up with to describe their experiences. They're capable of asking for help. They can tell us where they have trouble, and sometimes even why they think that they are having the trouble, and who is available to support them and help them in this online world. I was just completely thrilled with how we're utilizing the data. And one thing that I make you or Desiree or Amy, the comment time, could you maybe go over that? I'm afraid I won't explain it as well as you did, and you may feel more comfortable with it. But we're adding that and utilizing this concept, which I think was great and very well received too, I think.
Sure, I can chime in on comment time. So at each of our Student Achievement Committee meetings, we typically have a little bit of time to have a spotlight on a building and just learn more about what's happening there in terms of educational experience, programmatic experience for students. And so at our January meeting, we heard from Javaris Powell, principal at Mason Elementary, and he shared about this year their creation of Comment Time. It's a regular devoted time for teachers and students to really build classroom community, to build relationships with each other, to be clear about classroom expectations and how they work together as a learning community. And so that's become a part of that regular routine there. And students, we got to hear through video from some of our students about how much they value that time and that start to their day. And Mr. Powell also shared about the creation, which we heard about today from Joshika, about the Brave Ambassador Group. at ME, which is a new student group and an opportunity for students to share their opinions, as Joshika shared, and also to help to sort of respond to whatever is happening in the school. So they, as one example, when ME, as many of our buildings did, had many students coming back in person in January for second semester. Our brave student ambassador group at ME really took it upon themselves to figure out what are some things that we can do to help welcome students back and let them know we're glad they're back and get them oriented. And so they're playing a lot of different roles there.
Thank you. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, that was, I really enjoyed Javaris Powell's presentation and the Brave. I just wanted to highlight that there's 180 elementary students involved in that so far, and he said that that's growing. It sounds like a pretty rapid rate, and it's available for the online students as well as the in-person learners. And like you said, Joshika is a prime example of giving a student a voice, and she has a voice that needs to be heard, and she's very articulate, and it sounds like across that group of brave ambassadors, it's just letting those kids' voice be heard, and it's a driving force in how we do things, and they have a lot of important things to say. So I thought that was a really good program that he procured.
Yeah, well said, yes. And the one other thing one other very small part of the meeting, we heard an update on our, this is less exciting maybe than hearing about our student leadership group, but about our science instructional resource review, which is we're sort of a months-long process, and they are now to the point where they have heard from multiple vendors and are going through a thorough analysis of those resources using a rubric. We have had, thankfully, some Student Achievement Committee members who have volunteered to join in on those presentations to also give their perspective to that process. We will have teachers piloting the selected resource in March and April, and then eventually it'll come here we're planning for our May board meeting for a first reading for the board for those resources that will be selected. And grateful for our committee members who are not only making time to join our meetings, but then also to join vendor presentations, which is for some, I guess, enjoyable, but for many, maybe not so much. So we're thankful for their service to our committee.
Thanks, Amy, Connie, and Desiree. Mason Schools Foundation.
Yes, we are. I was thinking back, it's in 11 years ago, this crew really started fundraising for the first time, and we are now at a point where we have given back over $1 million in grants to our schools. We were looking at also our endowment, which is growing and doing well. But most importantly, and when I think of the grandparents who helped start it, the Campbells, they have always admonished us to make sure that we were getting the resources, the dreams that teachers had, getting that back. And it feels so proud to know that every year we do that. Part of the reason we're able to do that is for the other thing that the foundation is doing right this week, and we talked a lot about that at our meeting, was our very first virtual reading challenge. So it is challenging to do a virtual reading challenge. Some of the wonderful pieces, I would say a Mason moment for a lot of kids now as part of their Mason memories is having the reading challenge and having the stunts of their principals and having some of those things. And we are missing that this year. It's no doubt that school, while even in person or online, is still not quite the same, and we are missing those moments, but they are working really hard to still create moments virtually and to certainly create the prizes. But at the end of the day, it is a fundraiser, and we do hope that we'll still raise some dollars, because the good work that we've, some of that innovation and the pieces that I think to have teachers be able to whatever they can dream up, coming and going through a process with community members to say, hey, I really think, this outdoor space at MEC, I can envision what it would look like, and then I can now go look at it and go, it's there because it was a teacher's dream. And that is what really makes it special. So we had some exciting challenges, some exciting conversation about that, and also just because we're 11 years in from a official. We probably, a couple of us were even there maybe a year or two before that. We're re-looking at our own mission, just to say now we're kind of at our different, what stage are we at? Are we doing what we want to position ourselves for the next decade? And so our team is starting to look at that and just say, how do we go above and beyond next?
Awesome.
Yeah, just to be clear, the reading challenge is happening this week. So it's live right now, and our teachers and our staff and the Schools Foundation are doing a really good job to like Tracy said, make this the best that we can make it in a year where we know it's tough for it to be what we know that it usually is for our students and our families, but also to know that the donation portal is live, and they will accept donations for sure, and especially on behalf of students, so that they can get credit for it as part of their reading. I mean, they really are doing a reading challenge, and so sponsoring books that they're reading, and they can still get credit. And there's going to be a raffle, and they're doing Spirit Week, so it's a great week. And thanks to the Schools Foundation for helping us keep some of those traditions alive, even if they can't look exactly like they usually do.
Thanks, Tracy and Matt. Facilities Committee?
Yep, Facilities Committee met last week, and we had the opportunity to take a look at a quick update that we're just about complete on the middle school. And, it's, yes, I said that. I know we opened the doors, a long time ago, but those projects always take a long time, so it's a good time to just point out that a lot of diligence to make sure that we get that cleaned up properly and everything's as needed. So that was a good report. We also had a chance to look at some short and long-term maintenance options for Mason Central. So we're going to be taking on a few short-term options to shore up some of the roofing and so forth. And then take a look at kind of the use of that building, the long-term vision for the building, and what sort of maintenance should fill in based on that use, whether we have kids in it or not, and those kind of considerations. So I did make a comment at the meeting that it's always really a good indicator for me when we can be in a position to look at long-term solutions. There's always going to be some short-term things, but long-term is where you can really drive value. And if you have that luxury, that's where you can do it. And we, fortunately, we're in a posture in a lot of areas to have that long-term view, because you don't have that luxury all the time. Sometimes it's short-term decisions you have to make. And so in the facilities world lately, we've had the luxury of taking a look at some longer-term views. So that's it. Anything I missed?
Thanks, Kevin. Item number 18, legislative update.
Last meeting I went through some of the things that we're just getting ready to go through or had gone through, and so I just remind people that there was a dyslexia bill that went through that will have some impact to us over the next few years, and we'll be screening for dyslexia and looking at that across our grades 1 through 3, and then some 4, 5, 6, and then it'll eventually become a kind of a standardized screening at the beginning of a child's experience here. We do a lot of screenings already that are in place, so some of the things that we have in place we'll review and see how those work in some of the trainings. We've been fortunate because we've worked with our families specifically on some of the expertise training, like Orton Gillingham is one of the trainings that is out there, and we've had that need for some of our other families. So we've already investigated that already, but this will be a more comprehensive approach through this bill. So that's something just to keep an eye on, and something that will serve kids. And as we learn more, we'll figure out what that looks like and how it fits into our schedule. Another one that just to know about, there's a lot that's happened, but to remind you, the House Bill 409, there was an interesting thing in House Bill 409. Across the state, it's been difficult to get, believe it or not, it's not just us, it has a hard time getting subs. And so I know as you had a strategic idea at one point in time to do premium pay, so we started that when our data was showing that we couldn't find subs at a certain rate, and so our fill rate was going down, and it was jeopardizing our ability to stay open at one point in time, and so we started that premium pave, and it's something you approved as board members, and we appreciate it, and actually it helped quite a bit. This House Bill 409 also gives local control for you to begin to look at your criteria for what substitutes have to have before they come in as substitutes. So right now it's a 4-year degree, but you can actually now adjust that locally based on House Bill 409. So that's something that we've been talking about as a team, and considering taking that from a 4-year degree to a 2-year degree or 2 years of completed undergraduate work, just to open that up, because there's one group out there that they graduate, they're newly graduates, they're student taught, and that would make a great opportunity for those individuals to sub here. And there are some others that might have an associate's degree, for example, that might be good subs. So it's something we're looking into. We haven't done anything official, but we're just working through that together as a executive team and trying to find the right balance there to keep the quality, but also to get what we need as well out of that. And then the last one I'll just mention on here, because it's our very own Steve Wilson. Senate Bill 1 is teaching financial literacy at the high school. That's something that he's been passionate about since he became Senator Wilson in that role. And I know he talked to me about that quite a bit ago when he was running for that position. But what's great about that for us is we already have that built into what we do. So there are some districts around the state that will have to figure that out and think that through, but it is something that's already built into the fabric of what we do here at Mason High School and the comprehensive offerings that we have. So, but just because it's Senator Wilson, I thought I'd mention that in case you run into him. Tell him you're familiar with Senate Bill 1. He'll be thrilled that you know about it. So, thanks.
Thanks, Jonathan. Item number 19, administrator commentary. Tracy?
Sure. I just, on school board appreciation, just want to add my thank you to all of you for what you do for Mason Quality. And certainly it is the high quality staff and the high quality facilities and the planning and long range vision and the high quality opportunities for kids. That's been a long-term vision of this board. 100% of our kids, when we made a decision to go to one high school, to have all kids involved in something that's school sponsored, and that just is important. I think you also, because you're often behind the scenes doing the work, people don't often know all of the Mason moments that you create. And in this pandemic year, you went above and beyond yourselves in doing that. When I think of each senior last year in that class of 2020, the road lined with pictures that you personally made sure happened, and that was your idea and your vision, and it was a beautiful kickoff that I hope will become a long-term tradition, because it was beautiful to see all of our graduates and have that moment of them together. Certainly the graduation buses and Operation Diploma Delivery, that you championed that idea of making sure that each of our graduates had that special moment, just like they would have at Centos, to get to shake your hand and get their diploma, and in this way you were there for them. And just most recently, when National Merit, we had planned on being able to have them here, and then as our numbers and things were looking a little bit dicey this fall, a very quick call from me on like a Friday saying, "I'm so sorry, I don't think we can do this. Can you come this weekend? And can we, and it was an immediate text chain back, yes, 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 we want to do that. We would absolutely be delighted to be able to go out and hand deliver and make sure that families and their students had that opportunity to be recognized for their accomplishments. And so you often don't get the praise for those moments that you do, but you do them all the time. But in this year, it's particularly noteworthy. Thank you so much for all that you do for our students, our staff, and our community.
Thanks, Tracy. Amy?
And continue the appreciation. There's no way I could come close to the messages, the eloquence, the heartfelt message, Joshika's just amazing presentation. But I just want you to know from my perspective and working with our learning experience team, how much it has meant through this most unusual year of learning, to know that you were there and ready to support whatever it needed for our students to have Mason Quality, whether in a way that they felt safe. So to be able to support that option of in-person of at home and from the perspective of our learning team to know, at a time when budgets were being cut, that you were willing to step up and say, we need to do what is right for our students, whether that's investing in webcams for students who are wanting to be in person but have to be quarantined so that they can continue to come in, or Seesaw was an early investment for our youngest learners to be able to connect remotely from home, and now has become a great way for all of our learners to be able to connect with their teachers. Significantly to invest in online platforms, not just one, but it ended up having to be two after our major one made a last-minute switch on us, to make sure that our students could have access to the wide variety of courses that we take pride in offering, including our full, virtually full catalog of AP courses, as much as we could possibly do. To know that you were willing just to step up and say, yes, we need this for our students, and that you were there to back it up, just means so much to our team and for our work to serve our students. So thank you for that. It's truly appreciated.
Thanks, Amy. Tanya?
As a part of the Human Resource Department, I really appreciate the board support as we just continue to navigate the hiring process and have hiring solutions. Your willingness to allow flexibility and to support our decisions, whether it's, as Jonathan mentioned, creating building subs this year, doing our premium sub pay, or as we really think about alternative sub requirements, long-term sub coverage for when our online learners move to in-person. Allowing that flexibility in that transition has been huge for us to really be responsive to our community's needs, our students' needs, and also proactive in a lot of instances, which it's been hard to be proactive, I mean, honestly, in this current environment. So I really appreciate that. And I just thank you for your leadership that really allows us to pursue innovative ideas and your trust in us to do that effectively.
Thanks, Tanya. Christine?
So I'm going to echo some sentiments that were already said tonight. First of which, of just supporting that we were able to bring our students back in school and also support those families that chose to be online. That was a very difficult decision, and many other districts were not making the same decision. So we chose to go ahead and step out, and it's consistent with also your support of us consistently going out to our community, asking, listening, poring over the data and trusting and supporting our decisions. Because when everybody else isn't doing it, sometimes you wonder if it's the right thing. But we normally tried to have that data to support it, and you supported us in that effort and going out to our public consistently. As well as just wrapping around our community. We've had loss. We've had our community that struggled, our restaurants and all of the other things. And you guys wrapped your arms around our community, around our families, and around our staff, and have just supported us every step of the way. There's enormous trust, and we feel it. And thank you so much for that. And one of the latest investments you guys have made is bringing Heather Smith. She was on our agenda this evening. And what that investment's going to allow is our administrators and our nurses and some of the other folks that spend a lot of their time on administrative tasks to get back to working with students, working with staff, and to treating our students in need. So thank you very much. You're very much appreciated.
Thanks, Christine. Todd?
I'd also like to, just an appreciation of you and the job you do. First of all, working with a few boards, I just wanted to thank you for being engaged, prepared, and connected in everything that happens in Mason. I think people will ask me, why do you feel Mason's been successful? And it starts with 5 board members, 2 of which have been here almost 20 years, if not 20 years. It's rare, but all 5 of you, wherever we go, you're there. And our committee teams, you work as teammates, you're collaborative, it's much appreciated. And a year ago at this time, the pandemic, it was coming out of nowhere, and the idea of safety and how to prepare for that. And really, none of us were safety experts by any means. But your support of, look, in Mason, we do what's right for kids and teachers. Everything else will work itself out. That piece of advice allowed us to make our own plexiglass, 5,000 lineal feet, put hand dispensers where we needed to have those. I never had a concern because I knew I had your support, Sean and Jonathan's support. So as much as I can say it, that goes a long way for people that's been in this for a long time, and it's much appreciated the job that you do.
Scott? Sean?
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm grateful for the board's commitment to wise stewardship and managing all of the district's resources. And there's really a lot of examples I could give, of your wise stewardship. I'll just give a few. One of those is investing in opportunities for kids and families. We talked a lot about that tonight. Another is creating an environment that will attract and retain high-quality staff, which also goes back to investing in students and families. And you've managed to do those things while spending at a rate below the state average, which is really hard to do. And all of those things really kind of equate to producing a great return on investment for our community members. So those are all just a few examples of things that are part of the great stewardship you guys provide, and really creating that environment and the values that allow that start with leadership at the board level. So I appreciate that.
Thanks, Sean. Jonathan?
Well, I'll round it out by just reminding people, you can look around the state or locally at different boards and committees and people that lead in roles like yours. And I think we could all say this, that a board can make and break an organization pretty quickly. And the way that you have led in your roles, the way that you sit in your seats with calm and confidence, it matters. It matters to us as leaders. I have colleagues all around that feel like they're walking on eggshells, not sure what to think of their board, and it creates a really an unstable environment. And right now, leading through a pandemic especially, having stability with a board that actually collaborates together, that works well together professionally, respectfully, and continues to look at the long view, it matters. One of the things I had read recently about exemplary leadership is that leaders in positions like yours build a spirit of community, and they also are personally involved. And I would say all of us can point to many examples of how you have built community, whether it's connecting with a family that's hurting, that reaches out to you, or being involved in the things that you show up at, whether it's games or the investment you put in the gala. I mean, it's just all the different things that you've done over the years, the empathy that you've shown, and it's true involvement. It's not just for the show or to be there to check off a box. It's actually you care. So, and we see that, we feel that, so we're just so grateful. So hopefully tonight you've heard specific examples of just how much you are appreciated. So I do hope you walk away, and we know it's not just you, it's your family. So please take this and share this with your families. Make them watch some of this with you. Sit them down, put it up on the big screen. Kids, I do things on those Tuesday nights, and it does matter. And all the committee work that I do behind the scenes and late phone calls. So thank you so much for all you do.
Thanks, Jonathan. Item number 20, board commentary. Desiree?
Thanks, Charles. I am truly humbled by the comments and the accolades that you've given the board, but I must say the team is what makes our job so much easier. Having the leadership in Mason Schools and the educators and the people who truly care about what they're doing makes our decisions easy, as we want to support you and do what's best for the school. So it means a lot, more than, like I said earlier, you would know, but working with this school district and these school board members who genuinely want to be here and care, and the administration and the educators who are so good at what they do, which makes our district so great at what it does, is an easy decision to want to serve on this board. Thank you.
Thanks, Desiree. Matt?
Yeah, throughout the the uncomfortable conversation tonight, hearing about ourselves. Usually I just get uncomfortable and kind of just hope for it to end, but tonight was different. I reflected on it earlier from the comments that people shared earlier, but also as all of you have reflected too on this, especially this year that we had. I just kept finding myself feeling like, well, that's not me, that's not us, we're not doing that, you're doing that. But I will give us credit for as individual board members, and I think this is so important, is that maybe what we do is recognize what our role is and what our role is not. And so, there are people who, especially right now in politics, and all of the ways that we can make our positions known about every issue under the sun. This isn't a role for that. This isn't a role to come to with an agenda, except to support what you all are doing. And not just to watch it happen, but to block and tackle for you and make sure that you have the resources available to do the excellent work that you all do and our teachers do, and our families get to experience. I think about, the reflection on specific investments we've been able to make, especially in this last year. And I think, that's not our money, we're not, you alluded to printing money and making those things happen. We are in a fortunate position here in Mason, and we are blessed with a community that supports what we're doing. And I think part of that is that, we recognize our role, and we engage our community. The community may not see us out there advocating for every specific position that individual families might be hoping that we might advocate for, but we listen and we engage, and we work with our families and our community to hear what they want from their schools, and work with you to make that happen. And I specifically wanted to thank the community for the investment that they decided to make in passing our levy at the beginning of 2020, when I started to say most people didn't know that they were going to be voting for supporting us in a pandemic, but actually quite a few of them did, because they voted not in person, right during the middle and between the time where the in-person election was called off. And so that's actually even more amazing that they made that investment at that time, knowing that there were challenges that none of us anticipated when we voted to put a levy on the ballot in the first place. And so thank you to the community, for sure, for that investment, and that knowledge. And I had another thing, but I'll just stop there and just thank you all for helping us to reflect on this. This has been actually a really great experience to be in community with you, to the point of community. And thank you for the opportunity to serve.
Thanks, Matt. Kevin?
Well, I'll echo the thank yous to each of you, and maybe I was talking to another local elected official who's on another government, and as we were talking about different things that were happening, and it just, I've known this, and I've not been able to really articulate it. We just kind of do it, but when crisis occurs, or when something happens in government, whether it's school or whatever, and same thing in business. At some point, you have to say, I've prepared for this. I have a team in place, and I've got to step back. Because unfortunately, nobody had a chance when the pandemic started to say, hey, you know what, we need to start doing some leadership development on how to run an online school. Maybe we'll put together a 2-year program and we'll, recruit some people. It isn't the case. And instead, it's, were you spending time investing in a team who's building their capabilities across a wide range of things? And you can't even say in a 100-year situation like this that we thought it was happening or could happen, but it did. And at that moment, this board stepped back and let you lead. We supported you. We did what I hope was helpful to do that, but we stepped back and said, this is our team. It's not time to change the team. It's time to go put the team in the field, and they're gonna take care of it. Another alternative in government is when crisis happens, the elected officials kind of push everybody out of the way and say, here we are, we're gonna take care of the situation. And I think all of us, having watched the landscape across, particularly in local government across, the nation this year, saw where that's just not a great idea. And, I'm just appreciative during, these times where we can kind of reflect back on the last year and just say, had we not had that opportunity, or at least because it does take a little restraint sometimes, as we all know, because we come in, we're presented a problem, and it's like, okay, get our hands up and start solving this problem. And what you guys are really thinking is, no, I didn't really mean for you to solve the problem here. And we have to have that understanding to know that you're the team, you're the leaders of this district. And any adulation we ultimately get is only because of you guys. So I just am thankful that we had a team that was ready and up to the challenge, and a community that saw that and supported it. And, that's just something to keep in mind. And I'll just end, Christine, you made a comment that said, when others aren't doing something, it's hard to move forward. And it is. But one of the most liberating things when you have a team is that you don't want to do what the others are doing. That's the indicator of what not to be doing. And we saw some of that really stand out this year that helped us really do what we're supposed to do, and that's serve our families and our kids. And without that perspective and that ability to do, it was hard. Sometimes you're like, wow, it'd be really easy to just kind of jump in and follow suit and be the middle of the pack and no one will scream at us. We took some hits, but I really do think that those two things are good to remember, because we'll face other challenges, hopefully none of this magnitude, but certainly there'll be challenges, and it's time to not necessarily look at what everyone else is doing. It's time for, to remember that investing in a team is critical, and doing it in times of prosperity is really important. So thanks for all the nice words to everybody and the speakers that came, and each and every one of you. And so thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Connie?
Thank you. Yes, it's always humbling when someone tells you they appreciate what you've done or the work that you've put into something, but kind of feel a little guilty because the people that are here in this community working with and for this school district, you guys really do make it a joy to serve. I continue to do this job because I believe that a school district is one of the most valuable assets any community can have. And we have a good one, and I see value in this role of just trying to help you all do your jobs and make sure that you can be creative and do whatever you can do. There's nothing that I do or this board does that matters unless we're working for you and serving you. I'm grateful for that. I really, truly am. And this community, as was already mentioned, this community really supports this school district, and I want to support the voters. It really is a joy to serve, and the board members that we currently have on the board, we're all driven to do the best job we can do. We have not always got the same ideas, but that's the good thing about it. But we do support each other. We may go to battle over something, but I think those kinds of conversations are good. And then we come together with a board decision, and we hope our goal is to support you all. So thanks to folks that had kind things to say about us, but really the credit belongs to all of our staff and our community.
Thanks, Connie. I don't have a whole lot extra to add. Everybody has said everything so well already this evening. I feel like this board in particular, we're kind of the stone and stone soup. And if you've not read that book or familiar with it, at the risk of spoiling it, The stone gets a little more credit than it's due for the taste of the soup as different ingredients get added in incrementally. We've got a lot of great ingredients in this room and in this community at large. And so while we, appreciate the thanks and we get a lot of credit a lot of times, we could not pull it all together without our amazing team and our amazing community that we are blessed to be in. And I'll also just end with the observation that, as Matt pointed out earlier, it is and Kevin, this date sneaks up on us, the Board Appreciation Month and the knowing that there's going to be the Thanksgiving. You kind of brace for impact and hope to speed through it usually, but when it's in the rear view, you kind of reflect on it and it feels good. It feels good to be appreciated and to be thanked. And it reminds us that, what that feeling of gratitude is like on the receiving end. And as, the five of us sit at the top of this organization, I hope that as we're here at the beginning of 2021 and in January, that we're able to set the tone for, enabling and letting others feel it's okay to, accept thanks and accept gratitude down the organization. If it were, if we said no, then, the next level down of administrators might feel like that's something awkward or whatnot to embrace, and then it falls to the teachers and the principals and so on and so forth. But I hope that you all feel enabled, and to anybody watching as well, feel that, you guys have put in a lot of work, and as you receive thanks and give gratitude, reflect on that and appreciate it, and likewise give thanks freely, show that gratitude freely, and know that the folks on the receiving end of that are always appreciative, and probably more so than they'll be able to articulate and show in a efficient and timely manner. We could probably all use some pointers and tips from Jashika on words and gestures and things like that. I'm really, her arm movements and hand movements, I need to get a tutorial on that. But thank you all again, and with that, I'll move on to item number 21, adjournment. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.